amongst it, friends. In the bottom left here, representing Exxon, it is the Mexican Terran SpeCial.
And in the upper right-hand side, representing Team Clash, we've got Reynor.
I'm so happy to be at the big kids table because not only do we get the, I'm in this special Discord with these special people for these, the big matches for the big money, but I get to hear the butt rock every intro. That royalty-free butt rock. I mean, there's nothing like it. I really wish that I just had a Spotify list full of it so that I could lift copious weights whenever I go to the gym.
And the intros have been fantastic throughout the entire season. Look at Reynor, though. Straight away starting this off, something to talk about, Maynard, because we've got a drone being super, super diligent with its scouting. To drone scout in the first place is like a cost. It's saying, I'm scared. I'm afraid you're going to proxy racks me. And to be this careful scouting so far, Reynor absolutely believes, I think, that even with the slight disadvantage of mining in the early game, he will be in a great position as long as he doesn't die to those proxy racks.
I completely agree with you, and it's actually so fitting that you mentioned how there is a chance that Reynor maybe loses a map or even this series, and if that chance is going to if that is going to happen, I see it as being that proxy rocks play. So most Zergs, they want to cut corners, especially at the highest level StarCraft. They're like, okay, I want to have every single drone working. I want to get everything as late as I possibly can so I can have as many drones as possible. But look how carefully he is even checking the main base, just in case, because there is this weird in-base proxy barracks play. He is just dotting his I's, crossing his T's, making sure that he gets to the mid-game without anything, sinister out of the Terran.
Yeah, Reynor does not want to lose this first series. You know what it is as well, right? I reckon Reynor was super motivated to win this because he really wants to play Maru, and he really wants to show what he's got on the biggest stage of all, right? So it's really cool because that's how Reynor works. He doesn't just want to beat the good guys. He wants to beat the best of the best. And I'm sure that's what he's aiming for today. As outside of that drone scout and everything else here is looking pretty standard Maynard. Just a couple queens, hatch gas pool, third hatcheries early, and the Reaper Scout is just moving around as well. The only thing I would say so far is that SpeCial did an SCV Scout, so a little bit riskier from him, put in a corner, but it's not going to come into play here with no pool first from Reynor.
Yep, all just stock standard here. A bit of I guess like a surprisingly decent rush distance on this map as well. Like it always looks like a little bit of a smaller map, but still is quite lengthy from A to B there, from natural to natural. So, both players just playing very standard, just the 1-1-1 opening here from SpeCial. He's not putting an add-on on the barracks. He's actually just, not going super quickly in a tech lab, so he's not like afraid of anything early rush out of Reynor. Just very laid back, easy peasy, breezy, TVZ start the things off with.
Nice for Reynor, doesn't lose a creep tumor there to the Reaper, so he's able to defend that. And again, just careful, cautious play out of Reynor. That Overlord speed going to give him the scouting. And then he will get a scout on the Fusion Core early. In SpeCial, he's been building a lot of battle cruisers as of late, and it's been a lot of battle cruisers into mech, into bio. He's even done some 1BC into mech plays, which is a little bit weirder as well, as we do see the Hellions are going to make an attempt to run by Maynard.
They are attempting it, and they are cutting through these lings here with the drones getting pulled off the line. Ooh, Reynor's going to sack a couple of them here. But if he can get rid of all these Hellions and lose less than half a dozen drones, I think he's happy. And so far, this defense from Reynor's been pretty top standard. Oh my goodness. Only losing 2 drones, handful of lings, getting rid of all those Hellions and the Reaper. You're absolutely happy with that. But of course, he's not done yet. Going into BC here with that Fusion Core, but a well-timed, speed-upgraded Overlord going to fly in here for Reynor. And he should be able to see that Fusion Core, if not with this Overlord, then with the other one.
Yep, guess the scout right away. I like the idea of SpeCial. He knew it was an early hatch, right? He knew it was no ling speed until about 4 minutes, so he knew he had a few seconds to dive in, but the control of Reynor was just a little bit too good there, and he really does get away with, again, like you said, full scouting, no real damage taken, drops the Rotron, drops the Lair. There is going to be extra barracks, so this is going to be that 1BC into bio play, and that gets weird because as we go Rotron and Lair, the option usually goes into like Corruptors and Roaches, and you hit like a Corruptor Roach Ravager timing. You do not want Corruptors against just one battlecruiser, and even Roaches are a little bit kind of like, do you really want those against bio? So Reynor, in that regard, he needs to figure out that this is going to be bio as a follow-up, and that should be possible with the Speedy Lords in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, the best Zergs in the world are very, very active with those speedy overlords, and Reynor is definitely one of those guys. So yeah, you're absolutely right. This is just going to be a switch after that one BC into the regular, like, double medevac, tactical jump BC across the map right now for SpeCial. Instant drone pull there from Reynor. Might not even lose a drone here to start things off with, just evacuating the third almost completely, letting the Queens get down there to protect their babies.
Yeah,
Good defense start here for Reynor.
Yeah, no, totally. I was just going to say, it's kind of fun because he has the Queens on the natural and the main, which are where the majority of drones are. So if the DC teleports into the third, yeah, the Queens are out of position, but there's less drones to pull away, so you don't lose as much mining there as if you had to pull the main base drones or so. So I love the setup that he had, and obviously very nicely done. He will perhaps lose an overlord here or there. A couple Hellions will try to run on by. 2 drones going down. Finally, some extra damage after that early game, but this is what, 2 drones, and that's going to be maybe a third at the end. Doesn't get the target. 2 drones only, and now that's all of the Hellions gone from the map, and the creep of Reynor is just going to keep on spreading because that BC can't cover all the avenues of creep that Reynor is setting up at the moment.
Now, there is something that you did mention that could be going into SpeCial's favor here. This is just theory, because it's not quite there yet, but Reynor is reacting to these BCs, well, thinking he's reacting to this BC singular, thinking that it's BCs plural. He's getting that Spire. And while Spire and Roaches is generally what you want against like 2 or 3 battle cruisers, against a switch into a bio push with +1 attack, I mean, with +1 finishes, and when the upgrades are finished, SpeCial is going to want to try and push with that to capitalize on this upgrade timing. I mean, Corruptors or Muters are not super useful against that kind of army. If you do go a little bit too heavily on that Spire, if you do fear the battlecruiser a little bit too much, you'll be punished for it. However, it looks like Reynor is continuing to get Roach production here. He doesn't look too bad on the ground. Which
I actually don't mind, because this is just 2 bases from SpeCial, right? So a Roach army kind of does cover you for that phase of the game. You go into like a later Baneling Nest or so. What's going to be really interesting is what he does with the Spire, because I agree with you. I don't think there's anything useful here off the Spire. You don't need Corruptors against 1 BC. Mutalisks are not going to help you against a 2 base all-in. So you need to be very, very careful with what you decide to do right now. And it's not like he's banked up money for those units off the Spire. Maybe he just keeps the Spire for later in the game, as this is a good initial fight. And that's why these Roaches are great early. It's in the longer game you kind of worry about them against Bio.
Cool. SpeCial has shown stim here, and that means I don't think we're going to see any Spire units here, Wardy. We're seeing nothing but Lings out of this lava here for Reynor, which is absolutely the right call. A great read from Reynor, and showing that stim there for SpeCial has tipped his hand a little bit. So upgrades getting very close, specifically Carapace a little bit further along here for the Zerg, +1 already done for the Terran, and Reynor takes the siege tank shot, pulls back. SpeCial is still pressuring here. That's a lot of army supply. Brings in the BC as well from the main.
His overlords go down, and that's a huge supply block from Reynor. He's not going to be out of that for a long time, and look at all the money he has to spend as well. This is awful for Reynor. Also, moments before his +1 Carapace, which helps you so much on the Roaches when the Bio has that +1 attack. I don't like this at all for Reynor, actually, especially after losing those overlords. If those overlords stay alive, I don't mind it so much, but he's still not really able to produce until just now. At the very least, his +1 Carapace is done, but he's fighting with so many less units than he should be.
Ah, you're absolutely right. That was a brutal supply block there. He's got 11 Roaches on the way. When they're all here, that's fantastic. And the army supply is actually kind of not telling here, because a lot of that army supply is actually in production for Reynor. It's not actually here fighting. It's on its way. So this army for SpeCial is knocking on that front door, and a bit of it's rallying through the middle of the map, but not quite as much as coming out of that lava. Oh, man, it looks like Reynor is out of lava here. He spent it all. He's got some Roaches coming in from the north to try and grab those tanks. Does get the tanks. Is somehow pushing back the Bio as well. Getting rid of these tanks was absolutely huge.
Wow, you know what it is? I think it's just he bought so much time for himself. He really gave himself an opportunity, and then the tanks were stacked up, so one set of bars took down 2 of them, and Reynor is starting to push this back. It's only really medevacs and a handful of Marauders remaining. He's cutting off some reinforcements from the bottom side as well. I mean, these Marauders are still scary, don't get me wrong, Maynard, but now he's even flying medevacs into the Queens.
Yeah, I mean, losing these medevacs does take a bit of the wind out of the sails here for this push. SpeCial's just trying to get whatever he can here. But I think that with no more tanks coming across this map, as long as Reynor manages to keep that Roach count relatively high and keep these Queens relatively healthy, then he should be okay here. Obviously, he's bleeding up some Queens, but there it is. He is okay after all. Reynor holds. He had me sweating there. I was getting sweaty, but Reynor does take game 1.
Yeah, honestly, I really love his setup for this in general, but then he gets supply blocked, right? He lost a couple units, he didn't have his Carapace upgrade ready, and he needed to buy time, and he did. SpeCial pushed the tanks forward, but not into... He pushed the tanks up, but Reynor went to the right with his army, and those tanks weren't doing anything for this entire time. They weren't pushing Reynor further back, getting a siege on the third base, or anything along those lines. So Reynor pulled back into this really amazing spot, which allowed him to get unsupply blocked. Then he spent all of his money, and he was more or less maxed out going into that fight. Which, again, at that point, I liked his composition. His upgrades had finished. Maybe SpeCial just didn't jump on the opportunity when he already had it.
Yeah, writing was on the wall at that point. So a bit of a precarious game one. Definitely a good idea from SpeCial. I really liked the attempt to force the Spire out of Reynor, knowing that a lot of Zergs will react to the Spire to the first battlecruiser, and then trying to capitalize on that by a much quicker switch into Bio. So a cool play, a great build for this map. I think with Ice and Chrome coming up next, though, we might see something a little bit different. It might still include battlecruisers. In fact, I feel like it almost certainly will. But it might be some factories after that, as it's, even going back to the last time he played here on this map, he really does like to TVZ mech style on Ice and Chrome.
Yeah, the mech is the 100% the choice that makes the most sense in every single way, right? It's central, mech makes more sense. It's Ice and Chrome, mech makes more sense. It should be multiple BCs. He could, I think it was this map where he played one BC into mech the other day in the GSL, and that's a bit of an interesting switch up we could talk about if it happens. But in general, I'm completely with you, Reynor. This should be all about mech, of course. Love these stats as well, showing up on the screen. This is, of course, the European champ versus the Latin American champ fighting for this first match of Group C.
Yeah, the Latin America region referred to as one of those little regions, like what I was in charge of, our tiny Taiwanese little region there, my Oceanic and Hong Kong, Macau little regions that we had casting over there as well. But EU mentioned at the beginning of the cast, is one of the big regions, Wardy. So winning that region is a big deal. And who did he beat in that final again? Oh, just the GOAT himself, Serral. And a pretty tight score as well, considering that Serral had that winner's advantage. Pretty sick. I mean, that's something that you can basically put on as a bragging rights for the rest of your career, I think.
No, absolutely. I've got to say, the Europeans have a little bit to live up to today, Reynor, because yesterday 2 Europeans topped their group. So, Reynor and Clam today in Group C and D, they have some work to put in if they want to match Serral and Heroine's performance yesterday. We're ready for Ice and Chrome, though. I'm excited to see what exactly SpeCial does come up with on this map, as we are going to be starting in the bottom left-hand side. Our red 10 Terran. We're going to span this Dorito for Juanito. It's SpeCial.
And up in the top right, Mr. Number 1 in Legalac, it's Little Caesar. It's the Italian stallion. He is Clash's Reynor. It's a shame that, there's copyright and that sort of thing, all those laws, because I would really just like, when the moon hits your eye, like one of the, like that kind of track for whenever Reynor gets up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just personally want it as a fan of the kid,
I thought you were going to link Reynor's name into it in some way. Like you're going to start swapping some of the words.
That's a Reynor.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going with.
When the links hit your third. Yeah. You could actually completely rewrite that song. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're just doing it live right here, but...
Yeah, straight off the top of our domes. We're still making it perfect. And look at that, just scouting for that proxy racks again, Reynor, just really making sure that SpeCial's not going to pull a fast one on him here.
Yeah, it makes 100% sense, right? I think Reynor really is very confident in any form of longer game. Even when it got a bit touch and go for him in that last map, he still had the correct response. He bought the time, and he came out on top, and I think that's a confidence booster as well. And again, we have seen SpeCial again lately using a lot of proxy racks. It's something that all the Terrans do. Reynor's been very vocal about not liking playing against proxy racks, so it makes perfect sense for him to take that hit early for the safety of getting to the stage of the game that he loves.
Yeah, and we know that he loves that hive. He loves that lurk attack against Terran at the moment. And he's just one of the few people I feel like that have figured out how to do it right, strangely enough, because I see lurk attack quite a bit from other Zergs against Terran. And that just doesn't seem as convincing. Pig and I were talking about it a little bit during like a EPT Weekly America cast. Like obviously it's a different caliber of players, but there was still, Solar parting, like a lot of really great, top level cream of the crop players representing those races. And you just would see these Zergs trying to make the lurk attack work. And it was just like, the Terran would just roll through it with better bio, just being a little bit better with their multitasking, that sort of thing. And somehow this Reynor kid just seems to know how to do it correctly. There's a special source to it. I haven't quite put my finger on it yet, but whatever it is, Reynor's got it.
He's the master of it so far. He's just quick enough to make it work. It isn't active style. It's funny because you usually expect lurkers to be like, sit back, defend, don't do anything. But you need to use those lurkers aggressively because you need to be out denying bases. And to do that, you need to be able to get them on the map. So you need run bys. And Reynor's just got it figured out so well. It is terrifying when you watch him play. And then you see other people using it, you're like, yeah, well, I mean, Terran kind of just won. or like, it looked okay, but I could see the weakness. But with Reynor, I kind of want to see it against potentially Maru in the winners match today because I really would love to see what Maru decides to do against that kind of style. Because again, it's not a style Maru's never seen. I mean, I remember casting some qualifiers earlier this year where Maru lost a game to that style. But how does he deal with it when Reynor is at the helm of it all? As this is a fast layer this time around, Reynor.
It is indeed. So definitely a different game from game one. And even we're getting a Viking straight out of special here. I mean, you can go Viking into BC later. He doesn't really have, some people when they go for the BC openings, they like to get a couple Marines out to try and shoo away the Overlord. That's kind of where the role of the Viking comes in here. Special does get that creep tumor there at the front. Obviously, Reynor does have multiple queens. No problem to replenish that. But, it's always nice to get that first tumor. Just looking at this starport and whether the Tech Lab, the Fusion Core does go down, and there it is, as we suspected. BC's once more here from special.
I love it.
BC! Hell yes.
Yeah. This is a perfect way to switch it up and to turn the tide into your favor early on, especially if Reynor doesn't scout as carefully, and I think he won't, right? He's not going Overlord speed because of the early lair. I think Reynor's plan this game is the early lair, the early Spire into Mutalisks, and that's a really good start to then play Mutaling Bane into later Roaches against Mech. We've seen that be very popular, especially on these very large maps. You use the mutas to take over the map for yourself. But the one thing those mutas would not be good against here would be double BC, because then there's just maybe a little bit too much damage output. Obviously, it would be great if you went Corruptors, but you don't go Corruptors off an early Spire like this. There's the Overseer, and it needs to get some scouting information for Reynor, and he needs to realize what he wants to actually get built here. So that's going to be a Liberator first out of special, though. Okay.
Interesting. I mean, he didn't quite have the resources, I suppose, for the two BCs, but he only had to wait a couple more seconds to have it there. Okay, Kansas Liberator starts the second BC there. Oh, that Viking is getting quite a bit of damage done. Reynor is going to see the two BCs in production here, and yeah, it's a very nice guy, especially considering he didn't get Overlord speed on such a lengthy map. But so right now, Reynor, I think, might just go into Corruptors here. It makes sense completely to see two sports and be like, okay, I don't have 20 spores. I don't have a ton of queens. I have 5 right now. That's, it's okay, but not amazing against 2 BCs. Oh, this drone line. Not enough on the ground here for Reynor.
This time around, Special's really getting some damage done with his Hellions. He is going to come through, and he is going to get 9 workers as he continues into the natural. He's going to get a handful more. That's 12 workers killed. I mean, this is just not being handled at all. So Special getting so much done, and maybe a couple more at the end here. 16 drones killed. What a horrible, horrible start for Reynor when he's needing to build as much as possible against double BC. Like you said, Maynard, there's the Corruptors. You need those against double Starport Battlecruiser compared to the single Starport. You maybe could have gotten away with the Mutas, but Corruptors are out. That's the only good thing for Reynor right now, because his drone count, it's not looking pretty.
No, it's not. I mean, he's lost 3 Overlords to the Vikings. He's lost 17 drones to the Hellions. A bunch of the Lings died as well. And now there's Battlecruisers, and Corruptors are so expensive. They're also just floating through the middle of the map as well, so they can tactical jump back home. They're not buying a one-way ticket, which is absolutely the case if they do tactical jump in, because they will not be able to save themselves. The Corruptors are faster. So this is just all special right now. A goop on one of the starports there from the Overseer, which is cool. And we are going to see mech here. Usually Yamato leads into mech, the 2 factories, in fact, on screen as well. So I'm cheating a little bit. And there's the Corruptors.
Yeah, mech obviously makes perfect sense. Corruptors, there we go, forces the teleport back. So that is the good news from Reynor, right? That you're able to kind of shut down the double starport play at least, and that makes that investment maybe not as worthwhile. The only other thing I would say as well is these Corruptors are going to come hunting, is that because it's mech losing that amount of drones, you can absorb that damage because there's no immediate follow-up from special like there would be with bio that takes advantage of those worker losses. So if there was a game to lose 16 drones in, it would probably be this one, where you then shut down the next wave of harassment and there's not a major fight in the next couple of minutes.
No, you're absolutely right. There is actually a lot of freedom right now. As long as Reynor is keeping on top of the Hellion run-bys, there is not a whole lot that Special can do to Reynor at the moment. There's not enough BCs to just roll through the air army of these Corruptors. There's no Cyclones here for Special, so he doesn't actually have an answer to the Corruptors just yet. So at the moment, the BCs kind of have to chill until they get higher in numbers. or until the Cyclones come out.
I love these Corruptors kind of hunting for BCs as well. I think 4's a bit too many, though, because if you get 4 of your Corruptors shot down, they are going to have to be replaced. I love this pretty fast Infestation Pit as well from Reynor. So many options off the Infestation Pit, but I really feel it's double port BC and there being 4. I wonder if there's any world in which you just want to focus these Hellion Start again. Any world in which you want to focus on maybe getting a couple Infestors out for fungal growth / neuroparasites.
Well, unfortunately, it looks like 6 Hellions get into the main base here, and that is bad news for Reynor. Like I said, he needs to handle these Hellion run-bys, and he should be fine. Unfortunately, he is not really handling these Hellion run-bys. He's pulled the drones off the main base, but is losing another 8 here. SpeCial's got a 71-57 worker lead and a TVZ, Wardy. Not great. That means a lot of money and lava has to go on the drones again to replenish.
No, I completely agree, right? I feel like if he takes no further damage, he's actually doing okay, right? Like, it wasn't great to lose the initial drones, don't get me wrong, but you can handle it, you can survive it. But because he lost those initial drones, he was being a bit greedier, he delayed the Roach run, he didn't have as many units on the ground, and that's what SpeCial is basically just taking advantage of. So he brings that worker count down again, and yeah, Reynor bounces back, but this time SpeCial is starting to get to the point where he's going to have an army where, you know, scary pushers could start moving onto the map if you are, as Reynor, having to just re-drone and re-drone and re-drone.
Yeah, you really want your lava to be going into some units here. You really want your resources to be going to those upgrades. There's important upgrades like neural baneling speed. He's basically getting his anti-battle mech army, as he knows that's very likely going to be what follows with the BCs, because that is your initial answer to the Corruptor. So neural's going to be fantastic against dealing with the BCs, because you can grab them, make them your own, and then fungal, of course, for locking down the battle mech army and then connecting with the Banes. It's basically that kind of army comp working out theoretically. But of course, SpeCial knows this. He's not getting too deep on Cyclone production. It's actually not that much battle mech at all. He's made a few Cyclones just to survive against Corruptors, and now straight into the ground pound army of Hellion tank.
Yeah, just really powering up on the ground because he knows he's forced a lot of Corruptors. But again, you're never really looking to fight straight over the BCs anyway, right? So the Corruptors are kind of a dead weight once they push BCs back across the map. And, you know, in terms of supply, they kind of even out. So he's just going to go full force. You know, my mech on the ground is going to be super powerful. I kind of love it, right? Because the tanks, etc., will do a great job of zoning Infestors. Yeah, I like where this is at for SpeCial. I like his comp. He is getting mag field. He is getting blue flames. So he will have those upgrades to, you know, make use of later if he wants to start adding in more Cyclones, which he actually is maybe going to start doing a little bit of now. And yeah, obviously just passive sitting back and forth bases. These Infestors getting to a very aggressive spot just to the bottom side here.
Yeah, trying to go for the flank fungal here, the ambush from behind. The Widowmine actually might connect with the Infestors, though. One Infestor goes down. And he doesn't get a fungal on that army, or at least not enough to erase that army, so he didn't quite get the engagement that he was looking for there in his mind's eye. SpeCial still just trading here. There's 4 BCs showing up at that third base as well. Corruptors have got a job to do. Oh, good catch from the Cyclones at least.
Well, Corruptors have to respond. Obviously, it was a good time for SpeCial to move in because he knew the Infestors were out on the map. So he moves in there. Oh, there is still some Hellions here, and he's going to find 8 drones already. 10, and that'll be about it. But man, how many workers keep on dying for Reynor? He's lost 35 in this game, which is a lot, considering it's only 10 minutes deep.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like almost a year ago, or even a year ago to this point, where Reynor struggled so much against BC mech. And this game is sort of showing a few of those, you know, old habits from Reynor where he's just seemed to not be able to win engagements and get caught, you know, with his pants down a little bit against the harassment of the BCs. This is a nice catch, though. The Baneling's getting the Hellions, and one of the Cyclones, both the Cyclones get picked off. That was the engagement that Reynor looked for, but Widowmine going to make that a little bit painful on the link count at least. I don't know if he has enough to capitalize, so he's going to pull back.
A little bit uncharacteristic in general from Reynor, right? In terms of, you know, he is letting run-bys in, he is letting damage be done, and that's what he got so good at denying, basically, lately. But very characteristic of Reynor to be on the map, active, and finding fights like this. Not so sure about this amount of siege tanks. He's going to keep on going for it. He gets quite a lot of them, Maynard, but he's going to come at the cost of pretty much every Ravager that he had in that force.
Yeah, I think the blood was rushing to a different part of Reynor's body there. He really thought he had that engagement, but lost so many Ravagers. Each one of those Ravagers is 3 supply, 100 gas, 100 minerals. That is not cheap for Reynor. And yes, he got rid of some of the tanks. The SpeCial's push is still advancing forward, and his tank count is still pretty scary. Reynor needs a lot more Lings, and there are a lot more Lings here. Does get another tank there with the piles. Well done.
Yeah, nice corrosive biles. The thing is, Reynor's now on 95 drones, so for as much as he's lost drones throughout the game, he's been very good at rebuilding them. There's never been that one big push to punish the drones, which have gone down, and to catch Reynor redroning. So Reynor has got the bank to do these trades and to trade somewhat ineffectively. He's not even been that bad. Now he's going to catch the tanks on siege. He's going to run in, surrounding the Cyclones. He just doesn't get the complete surround, so SpeCial can keep on running as the Lings chase Corruptors, find the BCs at the top. He just misses the Neural Parasites.
So close to getting those Neurals. He does push back the mech army off the middle of the map, and that was incredibly important for Reynor. He obviously doesn't need breathing room here to re-drone. His economy is looking great. It's looking fantastic. He's going up to 6 hatcheries, but he does need to max out here, and he's very, very close to doing that, making a lot more Banelings. His army still feels very mid-tech, you know, very tier 2. We haven't seen anything tier 3 from Reynor until he just starts Adrenal right now. That's the first tier 3 thing we've seen since Hive finishes. And I really want to see something from Reynor that's a little bit more convincing against the mech army. Maybe some Vipers here. Something to help him out against that tank count if SpeCial manages to tank it up again. But unfortunately, interestingly, I should say, unfortunately is the wrong term. He's actually going straight into pure battle mech here. I've seen nothing but Cyclones from SpeCial for quite a while on this Tech Lab Factories.
Yeah, maybe just a way to start trading with the more active army of Reynor a bit better. It's a bit more mobile. You don't have to be sieged. They generally do trade effectively. Here comes Reynor from the top left-hand side. As he's just going to keep on rolling in, so he is going for this a little bit. I mean, a couple of tanks get sieged. There's Widow Mines there to catch a lot of the Banelings, but there's not the support to stop the Ravagers coming through, and there are more Banes left, but there's more tanks, and ooh, that was an interesting burrow. That didn't quite work out.
Not quite, not quite. Oh man, so much Cyclone production here from SpeCial. I mean, Battle Mech feels like one of those army comps that works for quite a while, but then once the Ling and Bane count of the Zerg gets really high, it's just not very good anymore. I mean, we will see, of course. SpeCial's a better Terran than me, so I will allow it. These 4 BCs are going to pick off that hatchery to the north side, so Reynor knocked down to 5 here. The hatchery with the 6th one going to be taken to the bottom side instead, down to like the 5 o'clock location or the 4:30 location. Oh, man, this is such a tug of war, this game.
He also has the forward base as well, so that's pretty nice. Tug of war is a great word for it, or a great phrase for it. I love that you touched on the Vipers, because I actually do think that should be the next step for Reynor, right? Vipers can be great at blinding clouds against tanks, or just abducting Cyclones to guarantee kills. Talking about guaranteeing kills, he gets that base, although it comes at the cost of a lot of Lings and a nice attempt to burrow with SpeCials on top of it. Maybe could have burrowed those actually up on the high ground, and then maybe he wouldn't have scanned, and then maybe those burrowed Banes would have worked out.
Yeah, he just didn't have enough distance there. A bold effort, a bold strategy, Cotton, but it didn't work out. These Banelings, of course, are actually in threat as well. SpeCial really respecting them, though, especially considering he's on creep. So he's going to just start a step back. Some tanks to fall back to as well. These Ravagers have got a weird bit of terrain here, Wardy. They're going to take a lot of shots from these tanks.
I don't like it. He's going around a corner, and I don't get it, right? There's nothing else showing up. It's not like he's got a flank. It's not like he has extra reinforcements. The battle cruisers teleport in because the Corruptors are on the top side of the map, and Reynor has absolutely nothing to fight back for the moment. Everything he has is in production. 80 Zerglings, but they are not here yet.
That's right. Who called in the fleet? SpeCial did. Juanito is rolling in with so much firepower here. Those Corruptors were AWOL, and now SpeCial has this lovely position. Lots of Lings coming in from Reynor. The Hellion count is quite low. Can these Lings get rid of the ground army? Looks like the answer is a resounding yes. The Corruptors, the Neurals coming in. There's those spells from Reynor. The firepower from the Corruptors as well to pick up 1 or 2 of these BCs. They're not going home.
Oh, they are absolutely not. Remember, they just teleported in as well, right? You know, to get down here, so they can't teleport out. So it's a huge commitment from SpeCial. It just doesn't do enough. It was the reinforcing Lings. I thought he was going to stop, morph them into Banes, and then go, which is why I was like, oh, SpeCial's got so much time. But Reynor just went for it, and he got the surround. He cleans up, and I mean, that's the benefit, I suppose, of being on 94 drones this entire time.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, speaking of economy, SpeCial is so mineral-starved right now. He's hand-to-mouth with every single one of his resources from the blue side. I mean, he's got lots of gas in the bank. This is probably pretty normal for late-game Terran, but for Mech to have this big of a gas bank, have no minerals, really does suck. He needs everything right now. He needs to be able to max out again, but Raider's not giving him that room. That was a lovely Widowmine there, killing a lot of Banelings, but the Banelings are still connecting with some of these Mech units, which are so hard for SpeCial to replenish at the moment, especially considering one of his bases is flying through the sky.
Yeah, I mean, 20 workers as well. The last thing SpeCial needs is to be losing a base, losing workers, because he needs those minerals. You just talked about it, Maynard. And now, Reynor reinforced with Lings. Well, he just cleaned out pretty much all of the Hellions. So honestly, Lings might just wrap around these Cyclones and just close this out, because he can't build Hellions because he's got no minerals. He can't build much of anything right now. He's trying to switch into Ghost, but I actually don't think switching into Ghost is what he needs. I think he needs more of just the basic units, as Corruptors are getting base kills and all sorts, and well, Reynor might just be about to run in to win this series 2-0.
I think you might be right, Woody. Special is really running out of steam. He had all of his chips put into the basket there with that tactical jump for the VCs. Even neural these Cyclones. Oh my God. He could just lock onto the command center and do some pretty insane damage like a TBT. It's absolutely wild. I've never seen that before. But there's the GG. Reynor